Welcome back to the Poundstown Lenten Mission. Now I'm going to talk about last week and the video that I hadn't edited because I think maybe it's just better that I just go live, I get that over and done with, create some catchy thumbnails, and then you're going to see this kind of grainy video. Let's see if I can clear that off. Nope, I can't. Oh well, I'm going to have to get some better equipment, part my hair differently. There we go. Okay, that looks better. Let me just talk about what I was going to share last week. And there's two things, and I can tie it into coronavirus or not. So I think maybe we're a little saturated with that. And so maybe I'm not going to talk too much about that. Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, let's get some better lighting in here. Okay. So a couple weeks ago, I had a little bit of a crying session, shall we say. I'm not neurotypical. I'm neurodivergent is the word. Neurodivergent is the word. I like non-neurotypical because it makes it very clear that there is a group of people that are neurotypical, and it articulates my own personal frustration a little better, but whatever. So I'm non-neurotypical, I'm neurodivergent, I have attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. And I get infuriated when I hear people say that I'm non-diagnosed ADHD, when people say that they're non-diagnosed, when I hear others say, oh, I have a little ADHD. No, you don't, because getting a diagnosis is a step in a positive direction that takes courage and the ability to be a successful adult and to accomplish things in the face of this disability. That I have reasonable accommodations now. And this is stuff that I didn't know when I was much younger. And it took me until I was 25 to figure this out and then to start, to acknowledge that this was something in my life that was an issue. And I have made an immense amount of progress in almost 12 years that I've been going to see a professional and that I've been following a treatment plan. And I've made immense progress in my life. And while things are not perfect, they get better. And I have to make an effort every day. And I'm well aware that every day, this is something that I fight, that I struggle with, right? So I get really upset when I hear people say I have a little ADHD and they've never been to a doctor for it, because it's not just something that you can self-diagnose. It is a real issue. And it's a challenge. It's a huge challenge. And people who have been around me, who have known me since I was a child, my parents, my siblings, my good friends, they can see that I've made progress in my life and that I am not where I was when I was in college and that I've really moved ahead. But people who are just getting to know me now don't always see this. And so they will say things, they'll give me these old labels, and these are old labels that stick and old labels that don't necessarily feel good. Old labels like messy is one, slob or pig is another one. And my favorite, which is absent-minded professor. Well, first of all, I know that I'm intelligent, but I don't have the credentials to teach at a university, so I'm not a professor. And I'm far from absent-minded because I actually have the presence of mind to recognize that, yes, I have this disability. I'm always going to have this, and that I've worked through and I've gone really far with it and I've made a lot of progress, but I still have a ways to go. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. And I'm not looking for sympathy by saying this either. Most of the time I'm able to psych myself up and I'm able to talk to myself and, talk myself in my head and say, okay, this is not a setback. You're just going to do better tomorrow. Baby steps. You've made baby steps to get to this point. You can keep making them. One step backward is not going to undo years of hard work, blah, blah, blah. But then there are moments and they're not frequent, but there are moments where I break down and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm a fail at adulthood because I can't find my keys, for example. Yeah. And there are moments where I break down and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't find stuff in my bag. Or maybe I leave a crumb on the countertop and, I have my friend comes over and they're like, oh, your house is a mess or something. And so, well, this isn't a mess for me. This is actually pretty good. And so sometimes it gets to the point where it's hard for me to hear positive self-talk. It's hard for me to psych myself up. And I do feel frustrated, not only frustrated with others around me who don't see it, but frustrated in myself because it's like I feel like I've gotten nowhere in my life. And I feel like I'm limited by that failure and that I'm never going to overcome this. And I think realistically, it's perfectly realistic to say I am never going to overcome this, but I can get better at it. And then there are moments where I say I'm never going to overcome this and I can never get better at it. And those are the moments that I want to talk about. So in the Gospel of the third Sunday of Lent, Jesus meets this woman at the well and she asks, why are you talking to me? You're a Jewish man. I'm a Samaritan woman. And he starts telling her about her life and he starts talking about things that are heartbreaking for her. She'd been married 5 times. Now, whether those marriages ended in divorce, separation, whether they ended in death, however they ended, when a marriage ends, that's a heartbreak. Just as feeling sometimes like we're never going to overcome something and that we're never going to get better than today, that we're trapped in our failures. That's heartbreaking to feel that way. That's heartbreaking. And so Jesus says to this woman, yeah, and the person that you're with right now, he's not your husband. Now, for whatever that means, I'm going to take that on face value, that she's just hanging out with somebody who's not her husband. Okay. Well, that can be a heartbreak too, to be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't want to get married. That's heartbreaking, particularly for women, particularly in the United States, particularly in an economy that is based on a 2-income household, in an economy that still shows preference to marriage. As a woman, being in a relationship with a man who doesn't want to get married is heartbreaking. So Jesus is revealing, yeah, I know your heartbreaks, but your heartbreaks aren't going to limit you to this moment at this well, that you're so much more than just somebody carrying a jug of water on your head and bringing it back to the house. You're so much more than that. You have so much more purpose. There's so much more. And just because of these things, you're not limited in how God's light can shine through you. And I know too many adults that say, oh, who, me? I'm not worthy to go and serve and do this because I lived a bad life, or I made mistakes in my life. And I think personally that is not the voice of God saying, oh, you lived a bad life, you're not worthy of moving forward. That is not the voice of God saying that. That's the voice of the evil one trying to keep us back from doing good, saying, oh, you did all this stuff, you're not worthy. No, because Jesus doesn't do that to this woman. He doesn't say, you need to stay here, you need to reflect on that, you're a bad person. No, he tells her all these things. He tells her to go. And when she does, she goes and she tells everybody about the glories of God. And so I think the message for this third Sunday is to say, look, there are things in our lives that everybody has something. Everybody has something that we don't quite have right. We have a heartbreak. We have something in our lives that is painful. A sense of this latent sense of unworthiness for something that we did, for something that we didn't do. I mean, in my own family, I have a certain sense of out of placeness because of who my parents are, and I love them dearly, but because they're not married to each other and they both have their own kids, there are times when I just feel like this sense of out of placeness among my siblings. And I'm okay with that because I love them and they're cool and that doesn't matter to us. But sometimes that negative self-talk kind of pops up and Jesus says none of that matters. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter your gender, who you're married to, who you're not married to. You have a second chance. You have opportunities to live better than your past. You are not a prisoner of your past. And that the light of God, the glory of God, can and will shine through you. So let that be the message. That it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter the heartbreaks in your past. What you've done, what you feel guilty for, none of that matters. Jesus is going to meet you where you are today, and he calls you to something so much better than anything you've ever seen before. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one.